Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's up, Ma? Welcome you guys to a live watch list. You guys know I always jump on here every once in a while when something big happens, but something big that happens when I have the opportunity to jump in and do it. If it happens in the middle of the night, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here. But still, today, in the middle of the week, I guess about Thursday, we've got the the nominee for Attorney General, Matt Gaetz, former congressman who just resigned last week so that he could take on the role of Attorney General, with AKA avoid accountability for this investigation that's coming forward on him. He has withdrawn, as of like 10, 15 minutes ago, his nomination that Donald Trump nominated him, the one that they've been fighting so hard for, the one that the Speaker of the House had to say, I want to make sure we keep this investigation from coming out. The one that just today, or was it late yesterday, disgraced Congressperson George Santos came to the Capitol to demand that they do something about this. Everyone needs to know how unfair this is. Apparently, it's too unfair because Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his nomination. Let's go see what they're talking about. Let's watch this all together. As this develops, I just want to share this, guys, as I catch it at the same time. Watch.
Vaughn, what?
Andrea, this was in a social media post just moments ago. I'm just going to read it directly to you from Matt Gaetz, who, of course, was up on Capitol Hill yesterday meeting with senators toured around by J.D. Vance. This is from Matt Gaetz. Quote, I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to see that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. I will forever be honored that President Trump nominated me to lead the Department of Justice, and I'm certain he will save America. Matt Gaetz, 8 days, Andrea, after being nominated, his name being put into the fold for Attorney General of the United States, is dropping out. This all while there was debate within the House Ethics Committee over whether to release the ethics report looking into the allegations that he had had sexual interactions with a minor dating back several years ago. Ultimately, yesterday, the House Ethics Committee was at a standstill, choosing not to release the report at this time. But we know that senators, including some Republicans, were interested in having the details of the underlying allegations and evidence that was in the hands of the House Ethics Committee. Of course, Matt Gaetz turned heads when Donald Trump first picked him. They were on their way from Washington, D.C., aboard Trump's plane back here to Mar-a-Lago 8 days ago, when the decision was made by Donald Trump in flight to nominate Gaetz in a surprising fashion to lead the Department of Justice. Of course, these were all allegations that the Department of Justice had looked into. People like Speaker Kevin McCarthy had publicly stated just this year that he thought that Matt would eventually be.
Okay, that's not from him. So as you guys heard, there's more going on. The live reaction that's happening. I'm gonna go to ABC News in a second because they're seeing it as it's going down. That was their set report, giving you the background of Matt Gaetz and what he's been going through. 8 days apparently after the nomination, he's now withdrawing his name because it's been too much of a distraction. Well, bro, the problem is the heat is coming down harder, specifically from Republicans that have said, yo, we want to see this report. It's obvious Matt Gaetz left and resigned from Congress when he was nominated a day before this report was supposed to come out so that he could avoid the report coming out. If nothing else, he's trying to save his own ass. So maybe this is now speculation for me. The hope now is, first, I just saw you say outlaw all billionaires over here on the chat, that release the investigation now. I think this is a ploy to try and keep the investigation from being released. It's the second attempt at that, maybe even third, because the first was withdrawing from Congress or resigning from Congress. The second was Mike Johnson saying that he doesn't want to put his thumb on the scales because he's the Speaker of the House, but let me put my thumb on the scales and say that they shouldn't release this report. And now, after not enough Republicans said that they're willing to buy that BS, then Matt Gaetz now is withdrawing his name, still hoping that the truth about what we've seen and heard about him doesn't come out. Is there any reason not to? I thought this was the party of wanting to stop child predators. I thought this is the party whose president-elect just said before he was elected that he's going to protect women, maybe little girls too. I don't know. But the things that we've heard from Matt Gaetz and his buddy Joel Greenberg, who was busted for being a part of this whole thing, what we heard apparently was too much, and it's just a distraction. I guess they're willing to back off of distractions. Let's see more of what's going on, you guys. This actually first from you guys, because I'm curious that what people think of this, if they think this is some kind of ulterior motive, because Matt Gaetz was actually proposing to be this guy who breaks up all of the corruption in legislators and in Congress and in Washington D.C. When obviously his promise was to get some political retribution in the name of Donald Trump. That's been the entire point of it. But Donald Trump thought that he could float someone else who also has sexual assault allegations on his record as well, just like him. He's like, well, bro, they put me in. I can do whatever the hell I want. Let's see what ABC News is saying about this. I'm curious as things develop. If it's not much, I will come back and have random things say, oh, we got an ad. Hold on, you guys. I can't believe they put me on an ad. Maybe they're actually on an ad now because they're a commercial break. Here in that for now until we come back. So just the initial thoughts on this. I guess the next step is to see if they do release this report. Representative Steve Cohen put forward that claim, I believe it was yesterday on the House floor, to still request that. There was more Republicans that said they would like to see it before they go into this process, which again wasn't supposed to happen till like later next year, a couple months from now. But this is just too much for them to try to carry and push off to the side and act like there's nothing there. So I guess the only question I have now is, what is the next plan? Because obviously Donald Trump will probably still trying to protect his guy. Is this a matter of hopefully they'll stop doing this, and hopefully the fellow Republicans that are asking for this, they'll take this as a sign. Lay off, you guys. As long as you guys don't pursue this further for the potential criminal activity behind it, and just keep it at the surface level of didn't want this to come forward for our new attorney general to take office or take his position with these things on his record, is the next step. Now, listen, you guys, we need you to shut up. Please don't continue this. This could get really bad. And as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, we can expose all you guys. The threats could potentially be flying all over the place. And if it does continue on, maybe, the minority Democrats will still try and get this thing put forward. I guess the next question after that is Trump willing to then start using his presidential powers and pardoning and all that to get Matt Gaetz off of any hooks that he'd be hooked on to? But that would take a lot more time. It'd have to go through investigation, charges, trials, and all that stuff. It would take a year, if not longer. So yeah, that's been the news that's going on now. Maybe ABC is back to give more. Here we go. Let's go back to them because I'm curious what the reactions are being. Maybe they're getting some of these reactions. I'm actually curious about this. Let's go.
Attorney General.
Come on.
So with this ethics report, obviously complicated things because we got in drips and drabs what the ethics committee was able to uncover over the course of this months-long investigation into Gaetz, including a woman who testified to the ethics committee, according to sources who spoke to our Will Staken, that when she was 17 years old and Matt Gaetz was in Congress, he had sex with her in 2017. So we've learned to a degree what the ethics committee has heard in some form or fashion. But point being that this was going to be a complicated confirmation process even without this ethics report hanging over Matt Gaetz's head. Matt Gaetz came here to the Hill yesterday to try to drum up support from Republican senators. And it's clear based upon this statement that he just didn't feel like he had the support he needed to get this over the goal line, despite the fact that there were some Republican senators who, after meeting Gaetz, were pushing him to fight this out and pushing him to take this to potentially contentious confirmation hearings.
No, you got the statement. I've got the statement now in front of me. Let's just take a look at it, Jay.
Here's the statement again, in case you guys missed it off the top.
Putting this out on X. I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to see that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. I will forever be honored that President Trump nominated me to lead the Department of Justice, and I'm certain he will save America.
Certain.
So I guess a couple things. What did you make of this line? There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. scuffle. This is far more than a scuffle. It's a scandal. I mean, we're talking
They
about
keep trying to
sleeping with
minimize
minors,
this.
illicit drug
Thank you.
use, and paying women for sex. These are some serious allegations.
Yeah, and I think what he's speaking to there is the fact that this was going to be a drawn-out, bloody Senate confirmation fight, to be candid with you. And the reality is that the scuffle here that Matt Gaetz was kind of preparing himself for was going to be all through the Senate Judiciary Committee. Because the Senate Judiciary Committee said they wanted Matt Gaetz to come before the committee. They wanted to have hearings. John Cornyn said it would be like, quote unquote, Kavanaugh on steroids, those Matt Gaetz confirmation hearings. Lindsey Graham said Matt Gaetz had a right, after he met with Matt Gaetz yesterday, to, quote unquote, confront his accusers and do so in a public way, which would have been a Senate Judiciary confirmation hearing. And when you talk about the scandal element of this, and what we know that the House Ethics Committee, not the Senate, but the House Ethics Committee, had uncovered in its months-long investigation into Matt Gaetz, we know, as I mentioned, that there was a woman who testified that Matt Gaetz had sex with her when she was a minor. Matt Gaetz denies that. He has said he's never had sex with anyone under the age of 18. We know that, according to a lawyer, 2 of his clients testified before this committee that Matt Gaetz paid them through Venmo records for sex. Matt Gaetz denies that. We know that there were allegations of illicit drug use. Matt Gaetz denies that too. But we know what the House Ethics Committee has been looking into, and to a degree, we know what people have told them over the course of their investigation. And there's been this fervor over whether the report would ever come out. We know the House Ethics Committee, when we were on Kira, voted.
So they're the point of, if you guys hadn't seen the consistent story behind this, those of you who had missed it, they're recapping it now on ABC, what led to this point, all the allegations, some of the accomplices that had gone down, like Joel Greenberg. And also the drawn out process of trying to cover this whole thing up. Again, the next steps we'll see. I mean, the next obvious question outside of Matt Gaetz's future, because he did resign from the House, so he doesn't have that job anymore. I don't think he can turn around and say, my bad, just kidding. Now that they found me and they're about to expose me, can I come back in? Because if you come back in, they can then, the whole excuse that Mike Johnson had is they could then release the report and still get your ass. So who knows what's next for Matt Gaetz? Maybe it's more of a shadow part of the Trump administration where he doesn't have to be confirmed, so where he can just insert him there and protect him in other ways. Who knows? We'll see. But obviously, the natural third to fourth, now that I've gone to 3 questions, is who's going to be the next nominee? I mean, this has been a murderer's row of incompetent, potentially criminal nominees for all these positions. I mean, if they're not incompetent, they're criminal. And if they're not criminal, they're incompetent, if not both, which is, Matt Gaetz kind of led the charge on that. Here's another reporter coming in. Maybe this one. Let's listen.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot that the Trump transition team, frankly, learned over the past few days, especially as Donald Trump and J.D. Vance were making calls to senators asking for their support. So it very clearly became known, at least internally at the transition team, that he just wasn't going to get the votes that he needed to be confirmed. And Trump obviously was growing particularly irritated about this, given that there was possibly information that was coming out, of course, that Trump didn't know about. Now, the question is really here, Kira, what's next? We've talked a lot about how the Gaetz pick came to fruition. That's because we know that Donald Trump interviewed quite a few people for the job, and he wasn't satisfied with any of them. And then this plan hatched really in just a matter of hours on the plane when Trump was coming to Washington, D.C. to meet with Biden, and really came out of nowhere. Gaetz wasn't thoroughly vetted by the transition team. Really, nobody knew that he would be the pick. He was never on any lists, if you will, internally to be the attorney general. So now what happens next? Of course, he's already announced, Trump has, that his number 2 and number 3, both at DOJ, both his top defense attorneys, Todd Blanche and Emil Bove. Now, will he elevate one of them? Will there be a process in which he interviews more people? We'll have to see. Though I can tell you that just as late as last night over there at Mar-a-Lago, of course, Trump was having transition meetings. It was clear to top advisors that Trump really didn't think that Gaetz would make it here and be confirmed as Attorney General. So keep an eye on what's next. It's unclear if Trump intends to interview more people or elevate somebody that he's already put in another role.
So, John Carl, you're our chief Washington correspondent. I heard you reporting just a little bit that you think more than likely Todd Blanche could be the next in line to be Trump's pick for Attorney General.
Well, we don't know what Trump will do. What I was reporting, Kira, is that Blanche has already been announced as Deputy Attorney General. He is somebody who both is widely respected and has Trump's confidence. That's a pretty powerful combination coming after something like this. Somebody that Trump trusts because he served as his attorney through all the legal saga of the last year and a half. His lead counsel,
I believe this is the guy that was always
York.
standing behind Trump when he was having his
Trump knows him, likes him, trusts him, and he's a former prosecutor. He's somebody who has real credentials, frankly, that Matt Gaetz didn't have, and at least as far as we know, none of the controversy that Matt Gaetz brought. So he's somebody who's been vetted, and who knows, though, with Donald Trump. He interviewed several candidates for Attorney General. I wouldn't be surprised to see him reopen that search, but I think there's the sense that I am getting from the president's transition team is he is eager to get his choices for his cabinet together quickly. I mean, you see it in the pace that he has gone here with all of the picks. There are only a few left at the cabinet level. He wants to get this done so that he can get to win as he's sworn.
Yes, it's the similar thing. They're going about it, still trying to figure out who's going to be up next. Potentially one of his attorneys. I saw someone say Alina Habba. I also heard that I don't know the truthfulness of this because I didn't read that deep into this because I didn't care enough. But there was a potential for her for press secretary. Either she didn't want it or didn't get it. Who knows? Who doesn't really matter. Before his campaign spokesperson is the one I believe is taking that. I can't remember her name right now, but Alina Habba maybe is still waiting in the wings because she did a lot of work for Trump as well during his trials, not necessarily to help him win, but to help him in the public opinion part when she was barking at reporters, angry every time that something went badly for them in court. So maybe she's up for it as well. Grumpy Cat says Judge Eileen Cannon. They probably need her in the role that they have her in to continue to be that MAGA wall of making sure everything he does is legal, quote unquote. But who knows? We'll see as things go through. I assume before this week is over, at least maybe he'll make some crazy announcement by tomorrow on Friday so that the weekend will take care of whatever else comes. I guess someone else before mentioned Judge Judy, not necessarily in this chat, but you know how he thinks about TV personalities or people he thinks look tough and act tough. And Linda McMahon is going to run the education department in his opinion. So it wouldn't be outside of the norm for this guy. So Matt Gaetz, he's done. We'll see what happens next. We'll see what Trump says next. We'll see what Trump has any kind of excuses for this next and what the future is for Matt Gaetz. I'm telling you, if these legislators in the Senate or House still decide to go with the plan, or at least what they hope will now be the plan, because Matt Gaetz withdrew his nomination, to then still not go after the guy who we've seen all this evidence and potential conviction come forward for his participation in underage sex rings and traveling around with, this is what was said, traveling around with young girls. How much do we actually care about it? Because, you know, they'll bark about it during campaigns. Will they do something about it when they have the opportunity? The feet are still at the fire. This ain't over. Do we care about these kids or do we not? We'll see. Glad to see you guys. We'll jump on soon more. But the next thing coming out, I was just working in the middle. Obviously, I released a Matt Gaetz one. We're releasing that one today. It was just before this news came out. But I'm also working today on the watch list on the ongoing saga going around Nancy Mace and her disdain and preemptive strike against the first transgender woman that was elected to Congress to make sure she can't use whatever restrooms that Nancy Mace doesn't want her to use. I guess she thought she started the first day with this principled stance, and now it's looking a lot more personal and about her promotion. You know, we've got people that have talked about who she is, and they're still talking. There's a lot of things going on. Look out for that today also on the watch list, you guys. We'll catch you guys later, maybe even on the main show or TDR. I've been making the rounds. We'll see you guys soon.